What's up, my community? If it's your first time, welcome. And if you're returning, welcome back. So today I am excited to interview an amazing woman that I had the opportunity of meeting back when I was going to college at Appalachian State University. And as it is Women's History Month, I just find it extremely appropriate at this time with the pandemic and everything to highlight someone who is in the field and who has a little bit closer, closer relationship with what's going on than I. And so I'm just excited to introduce to you guys Dr. Nikki Maddox Parsons.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being a part. I really, really do appreciate it. And I just wanted to give you an opportunity, if you would like, to tell us a little bit about yourself and let us know what is your practice and what you have going on.
So, I am Nikki Parson. I am a physician, OBGYN here in Charlotte. I have been, a physician for going on 10 years now. My specialty is obstetrics and gynecology. I'm a general obstetrician and gynecologist. Gosh, that runs out quick. What else?
You're an amazing mother and wife.
Yeah, I am. I have
Beautiful
two boys.
family.
I do. I've got two boys, one that will be 15 in a couple of weeks, and then 13. So two boys and an amazing husband, DJ, who we went to college together back at Appalachian.
That is awesome. And just to point out, okay, the fact that you have a 15-year-old son looks like maybe he would probably be your brother.
No.
Do not look like you would have anybody's 15-year-old at all. That is.
I wish we just recently had a meeting about just how to select colleges. And I think that was one of the first times that it really hit me that was like, geez Louise, here we are. So yeah, they grew up quick. They grew up really quick.
I mean, the time really flies. It really felt like I just met you yesterday at Appalachian. Yep. And now today it's like you have a 15-year-old. And
yes, yeah, they grow up very, very, very quickly. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, that's amazing. And just going back to that, so when we met at Appalachian State and once you graduated, you went on to go to Wake Forest. Is that correct for your?
So I actually had an interesting little story in that I actually was an artist. So I was actually on a full ride art scholarship at Appalachian. So I was a fine artist. I went to School of the Arts and I graduated from North Carolina School of the Arts in high school. Wow. And then Appalachian pulled me in for fine arts. And that was my major, graphic arts and imaging technology with a minor in fine arts. So nothing medicine at all. And then ended up graduating, getting married, and going into graphic arts and marketing in Wilson, North Carolina, and then down to Atlanta. So that was really sort of the initial experience right after graduating. And then an old wish of mine or an old goal of mine started to creep back up. So I have a letter that my mother has saved that I wrote to myself. I think when I was 10, I think the teacher made you write a note to yourself like in 5th grade or something crazy. Very embarrassing note of my goals at that time. But in that was getting married, having 3 kids, all of these animals, and being an OBGYN. And so I used to want to deliver babies many, 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 many years ago when I was in elementary, middle school. And then I started drawing and painting, and that was both a talent and a love for me. And so it kind of took on a life of its own. And I didn't realize until randomly in Atlanta, after a conversation with a friend of mine, that was something that still was a desire. And at that point, I had no sciences other than the ones required for graduating at App, and no experience at all. So that's an interesting story.
Wow, that is absolutely interesting because
Yeah.
that was actually one of my questions was an OBGYN, because again, like I say, I knew when I met you in
Mm-hmm.
college, I wasn't sure. I didn't know that you
Mm-hmm.
were doing art there, but
Yeah.
obviously Appalachian
Yeah.
is not a medical school, or I don't think anywhere near it.
Well, they've started developing, since I've left, they have this huge science program now where they're sending and creating a lot of nursing and science oriented degrees. So they've beefed it up quite a bit since
Wow.
when I was there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's
But
what I was
no, at
wondering.
the
I'm like,
time, no.
so like,
No.
was it a goal? Were you thinking about it when you were at App? So
No.
so I'm interested to know, once you came back to that letter and
Mhm.
you realized that this was somewhat of a kind of a desire of yours or a promise
Yeah.
to yourself as a kid, how did that process start to go towards that? And what was your family's response to it? Since I'm sure it was like,
Yeah. Surprise. Yeah. Yeah. So, I didn't know what it was to like. I didn't even. I think a lot of physicians that you talk to will have mentors, and they will
mm-hmm,
have been, not all of them, but a lot of them have been groomed to do this. Their
mm-hmm,
parents were doctors, their family members were doctors. They have been groomed to do this. I always joke that I could do a Google commercial because literally I was at work and Googled. I went on Google and said, "How do you become a doctor?" And it gave me this like list. And I like printed it out and was like, okay, so it says I need these sciences. It says I need something called an MCAT test. And I need, all of this stuff that I need to do. So then I end up calling my husband and basically saying, so there's something I think I want to do that I used to want to do. Well, interesting enough, he knew that. He knew that that was an old wish of mine or an old goal
mm-hmm,
of mine. Because I had even volunteered at the hospitals when I was like 13 as
mm-hmm.
a candy striper. And so I don't think I even had to tell him. I said, I think I want to do what I used to want to do. And he goes,
A husband
okay.
that knows his
Yeah.
wife.
He's like, okay. And so his biggest thing was, we're going back to North Carolina. Because at that point we were in Atlanta. So he's like, we're going back to North
Okay.
Carolina. This
Mm-hmm.
is what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so we basically sold the house, quit our jobs, and
Wow.
moved back to North Carolina. And it's such a journey because you're doing so much and you don't even want to tell anybody that that's what you're doing, because it's like, what if like you don't even have any sciences, you don't even know if you can do this or if you're smart enough to do this. And then you're
Mm-hmm.
gonna have to tell everyone that you failed. And but I also, as a believer, as a Christian, I just felt like it was also this sort of very important moment in my life of stepping out on faith in a very public way, which is
Yes.
not my ministry. And so it's like, God, can I just tell them how it goes down after it's done? But
Yeah.
you really weren't able to do that because you're going to have to, you've quit, you've moved, you've done all of these
Mm-hmm.
things. People are asking, what are you guys doing? And so
Yep.
you're going to have to put it out there, And so, yeah, I applied. Well, again, I had no mentor. And so now that I mentor other students, I always tell them to not do what I did. But I literally called Wake Forest and just said, what are your students? What are your students' grades, MCAT score, and all of this GPA, all of that stuff. And I wrote all those numbers down for their average for their class. And I just basically said, okay, I need to beat that. And if I beat that, I know I'm better than 50% of your class. And so I apply. I mean, I did all of that for a year and a half, 2 years. I got pregnant with Jordan, um, which, balancing that, I had him about, I think, 7 days before the MCAT. So I literally had a
Wow.
C-section, had to take the MCAT. DJ's bringing Jordan to me halfway through the test to nurse him,
Oh my
and then give Jordan
God.
back, go finish the test. But I do believe that when God has a purpose, then and so ultimately I did apply to Wake Forest. And again, you should probably apply to many medical schools, and I only applied to one, not realizing
Mm-hmm.
that. But again, he provided, and I got in, and I started in 2007 and graduated in 2011.
Wow. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. So what led you to actually choosing to become an OBGYN? And can you explain a little bit more exactly what is a obstetrician or OBGYN?
Yeah. So an obstetrician gynecologist is a combination. So an obstetrician is the one who takes care of a pregnant woman.
Okay.
And that is from the point of pregnancy until the delivery and the immediate postpartum period. Gynecology or gynecologist is a physician that takes care of a woman's health, and that is the entire woman's sort of life.
Mm-hmm.
And so what brought me there was OB. I wanted to deliver babies. I wanted to deliver babies. My first introduction was actually a midwife. Not a midwife, actually a doula. A friend of mine's mother was a doula when I was 10 years old, back to
Mm-hmm.
that letter to myself.
Uh-huh.
And she was watching birthing videos, and my friend was totally grossed out and left. And I literally sat on the bed with her mom and just watched birthing videos because she was a doula. And she knows that she's the one who introduced me to this. And so I wanted to deliver babies. I didn't want to be a doctor. I just wanted to deliver babies.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so in choosing initially, I think I chose it for delivering babies.
Mm-hmm.
10 years in, interesting enough, that's actually, I love it, but I don't know that it's my favorite part anymore. Gynecology is my favorite part in the sense that I like taking care of the whole woman.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think pregnancy and delivery is amazing, but I have grown to appreciate that labor and delivery is but a sliver of a woman's life.
Mm-hmm.
And um, while it is amazing and memorable and may even be the most important moment for them of their life, I really like taking care of a woman from teenage years to young adult through childbearing, after childbearing, how that changes your body and your mind and your emotions. When you're done with childbearing, menopause, 80, 90-year-old women, I really, really thrive on that total relationship with the woman.
That's awesome. And it brings to me the next question because I remember my husband asking me one time, he's like, do you have an OBGYN or and I'm like, I guess, my doctor. I go to my doctor, And so when I got pregnant with my daughter, and then in my mind, I just figured, I'd just be coming to see her. And then
Mm-hmm.
she referred me to an actual gynecological
Mm-hmm.
office and everything. And so I
Yeah.
learned that there was a difference, between just going to my regular
Mm-hmm.
doctor. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm wondering, whenever, in your experience, what have you seen of some of the biggest misconceptions women have about their health and women's health and
Yeah,
that
yeah,
kind of
yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, I, I don't know if I would call it a misconception, but I would like to call attention to the fact that if we as women took care of two things, you wouldn't need us very much. As much as I love my job, I think that if we took care of our mental health and our
thing?
physical well-being, you'd empty out 50% of the hospitals, maybe more. And so, part of what I love about my job is empowering the patients to essentially not need me.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times I always joke, but women come to me for a couple of different things that they're always asking about, weight gain, um, low sex drive, and usually depression and anxiety. And, I always feel like they want me to tell them it's their thyroid. Like every woman wants me to go, it's your thyroid. And then they want me to give them a medication.
Uh-huh,
And then they
uh-huh.
will, all of a sudden, their weight comes off, their sex drive goes up, and they are happy. And it's just like, it's just not that easy. Those things and a whole host of other things have to be a decision every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And every day I should be able to ask you what you've done for your mental health, what you've done for your relationship and intimacy, and what have you done for your physical health and weight. And if you cannot name a specific thing or decision, you probably are not tackling it. And that's what lands you in our offices in a lot of cases a lot of times it's non-specific sorts of things that can be prevented. And so I think the biggest misconception is that um, that things are going on in my body that are wrong or are a disease. And a lot of times those things can be reversed. Diabetes can be reversed. Some forms of hypertension can be reversed. Obesity can be reversed, and so depression can be managed, And so I think the biggest thing is just taking hold of our health and our mental health, and realizing that you probably would put a lot of docs out of business.
Absolutely. Yeah. And not always looking for a pill.
That one pill. They want that one pill. It's just like, nope. That one pill. They want that one pill. And it's just like, nope, it's not going to be that easy.
Maybe try picking up a vegetable. That would be the best.
Vegetables, that's it. It's a daily decision that's got to be done, for sure.
And is it important for a woman, while she might have an OBGYN, to also have a primary care physician at the same time?
So, I think the statistics show that a lot of women, particularly in their reproductive aged years, see a doctor, an OBGYN, usually. Those are the number one sorts of issues. Birth control, pregnancy, periods. And so a lot of times that brings these women who don't otherwise have a doctor to us. I think, I'm kind of conflicted on it. I think in a lot of ways, if you don't have a lot of needs, and I do an annual exam, and I always ask a patient, do you have another physician? If not, I'll do your full physical exam, your annual exam. If you've got a lot of comorbidities, I am not the best doctor to manage chronic hypertension. I am not the best doctor to manage chronic type 2 diabetes or other, long-term chronic conditions. And so if you've got those things, then I would recommend a primary doctor. And then I think having a relationship with a doctor is also good, just back to that preventative piece again. And so just preventing the need to have a bunch of doctors. And so I don't mind being that for you. And if you don't have any other needs, then great. But as we get older, the body does start to age and break down, and I will start transitioning patients if they've got some issues that would be better managed by another physician for them to establish those relationships.
And that I really asked that question for myself because I really did.
Somebody else.
Are you supposed to have both? I really wasn't 100% sure on that. So
I think if you've got a lot, like if you've got a bunch of stuff if you need an annual exam, some annual labs, and a pap smear, then I can do all of those things. But if you've got a list of diagnoses, autoimmune diseases, cardiovascular diseases, and things, there are better doctors to take care of you. I am not the best one for you.
That makes a lot of sense. And so speaking to that, since, like you were saying, there are certain things that other doctors are more equipped for and what have you. I'm wondering, what has been your experience with the pandemic, and have you been impacted as the type of doctor that you are in this pandemic time?
I mean, yeah, for sure. I think early on, for sure, when we didn't know the scope, and we're still learning quite a bit about COVID. But I think initially a year ago, we just didn't know what COVID was going to, be and how it was going to affect people. And so, yeah, for sure. I was on conference calls after work 2-3 days a week for weeks, for months. I still have COVID meetings that we're doing because all of the research was coming out, the updates. COVID does affect pregnant women. It doesn't affect pregnant women. It does affect, this professional body released a statement, this professional body, so patients are getting stuff that WHO said, which is the World Health Organization, but then they're hearing what ACOG said, which is the, gynecology governing body in America. And so it's these sort of conflicting sorts of opinions and reports, and all of it's evolving based on research. And so, definitely. I think the other thing that probably affected not just my field, but all medical professionals is that in that lull where everyone stopped moving and people weren't having appointments, I think a lot of doctors will say that they saw this huge influx of diagnoses that might have been delayed. And so I had quite a bit of cancer diagnoses in the fall through the winter. I mean, more than for me and my patient population, way more than I was used to having, just cancer every week. And usually a pathologist calls you, hey, what you just sent me was cancer. I was getting calls like that, every week. And that was different from my field and my average. It was an uptick. And so you do wonder, was that delay happening across the board for all doctors and all specialties?
Wow. And so where was it like a situation where you were sending in from like a test that was supposed to be
like a biopsy?
Yeah.
So maybe she was having an issue in March and April, but because of fear and we're not sure what we should be doing, they didn't keep their appointments. And not only that, but we shut down. I mean, in March and April, I was off for a week. We had teams to try and avoid sort of cross contamination. So I was off for a week, on for a week, off for a week, on for a week. And, on average, I have 300 to 400 appointments a month that I'm seeing of patients, and you drop me down to 200. So some patients don't care, but some patients are like, Dr. Parson, I'm not seeing anybody until you get back. And so you have this sort of delay. There's this global delay and total decline in number of patients that are being seen. So yeah, for sure, there was some effects.
Wow.
And now we're delivering all the COVID babies. So that's now we're very busy. Babies are definitely, nobody was keeping 6 feet apart. All the babies right now. Yes.
Well, and I can imagine I absolutely thought to myself whenever all of this COVID started and we were like homebound, I was like, there are going to be some babies
everywhere. I mean, there's been days where I'm delivering one and they're like, oh, the other one's coming, and another one just rolled in, and I'm like, you're going to have to call another doctor because I cannot deliver. I think I had 4 within like 20 minutes. I was like, I can't physically deliver 4 children at the same time. So
baby boomer number 2. This is baby boom.
We need backup. We need some backup. So
So I'm wondering, Ed, since you have transitioned from your art profession and now over into being a doctor, what in each of those areas of your life, what are some achievement or milestone or something that you have achieved that just makes you feel so proud?
I read that question when you sent it to me and I glazed over it. Art. I think getting into School of the Arts was a pretty proud moment for me in high school. Just applying and getting in was a big moment for me. I think getting into the colleges, I applied to some pretty competitive colleges. No one knows these, but SCAD, which is in Savannah College of Art and Design, New York School of Visual Arts. I think those are big moments to acknowledge that you have a talent, and some of the top art institutions have accepted you. So I was proud. So I think for medicine, I think it's the small moments for me.
Yes.
There are moments where, we do what's called call, which is basically spending the night. You're going to stay overnight. You're on for 24 hours straight, and whatever comes in, you're in charge of. And so I think moments where you're asleep, it's like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, you're asleep and you get the call, an emergency, someone's hemorrhaging or a heart rate is down or, whatever. And, you jump up, you throw on your shoes, you run down the stairs, you're evaluating this woman. Maybe you need an emergency surgery. You're calling your anesthesiologist. You're all of this stuff starts moving around you, and all these other the nurses, the entire team is assembling. You get this patient in, and you affect the outcome. You get that moment where you actually change the outcome of this woman or this baby's life. And I always do this at the end of the surgery when I'm closing. At the very end, when you're closing the skin, I replay everything in my head. I don't know why, but that's when I actually replay it all, and it usually starts with the call, and that 2:00 in the morning, like, okay, so I got the call, I came downstairs, and you're replaying everything you did. Did I check that? Did I check this? Did I miss that? Did I do this? Did I do that? And you just realize in that moment that your hands and that your brain, that you did this, and that you were able to do this. And so those are the moments that feed the other moments where you're feeling like you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not as smart as the doctor beside me. In these moments when you're alone at 2:00 in the morning, you did it, and you have been trained, and you are ready. And this woman tells you that she was blessed to have you. And so you have to allow yourself that moment to be grateful and to, it's okay to say, okay, I did that well, because there are going to be other moments where there are bad outcomes. And those are just as memorable.
And you guys are angels. I know when I had to sort of kind of go into emergency situation with my C-section with my daughter, because I had preeclampsia, and I remember my doctor, when she came in and to deliver the news that we're going in today, she's coming today, and she was just like, you're gonna do good, your baby's gonna be fine, it's gonna be okay. And just was like an angelic moment. And you guys really can be,
you got this.
Yes, it's beautiful. Yeah. And I'm sure that the difficult times when it doesn't go as planned, that's also a process that you have to work out in your mind and in your heart, And I'm wondering, because I know that as women, especially when we're delivering and things of that nature, and there are those moments whenever someone might be suffering from something the doctor has not, yet diagnosed or what have you, but the woman knows that could be detrimental to her life. Do you have any advice for women on how to be their best advocate when they're, in dealing with the doctor and they know something's going on, but the doctor is not quite, targeting it yet?
Yeah, for sure. I think just ask the question. Ask the question. Say what you're thinking. There is no harm in that. I think that both are humans. This is a human interaction. We use title, doctor and patient. And while those titles matter, they're still human. And there have been times where a patient has said something and it snaps me out of my doctor mode, because we are very much, we're thinking of 1,000 data points. I have this funny mug that says, your Google search does not, beat my MD degree. The reason is we are trained. We're trained to look at 1,000,000 data points. We're making 1,000 decisions, and we are very trained to do it and do it well and do it quickly. And sometimes the patient has to go and snap us out for a second and go, and in that moment, that can be very helpful. And I think you are most successful in those moments when we are respectful of each other and where we don't have an ego. So you're not yelling at me or being disrespectful to my staff. I really am protective of my staff. I'd rather you cuss me out than my staff because I'm working them so hard. So just being respectful to my staff and to me, we're here to help you. And then me making sure and checking my ego at the door. There are times where a patient can snap and really get me to think, you're right. Let's take a left and let's do this instead, or let's look at that again, or you're telling me something's not right. This has never happened before. What do I lose doing another lab? What do I lose having you come back tomorrow and rechecking your blood pressure again? And so I think just advocating for yourself. If you've got, doctors are people and they care, And, I think sometimes doctors are doctors and they care about money and they care about, no, we go home and we are bawling. My husband has found me on the floor crying in the bathroom. We are human.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take much to get us to snap out of that sort of automated processing that we're doing for your benefit. But sometimes I don't need that right now. I just need you to hear me. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Right. That's fine. That's fine.
Absolutely. And I'm wondering, have you ran into any issues or have you had the experience being a Black female doctor where there's been some kind of hesitance in wanting you to be someone's doctor from a patient?
Yeah, I haven't had a whole lot of it. I've never had anyone be blatantly hurtful. I've had we've definitely had the patient who wanted a second opinion.
Yeah.
And they got a second opinion from a subordinate of mine, and it's like, in residency, like I'm actually the chief and, but you want a second opinion of the person I'm training, and you don't want to call everything, racism because sometimes it's not. Sometimes I just want a second opinion because it's my health. Yeah. But sometimes you can't help but wonder. And then I've had a patient who said, I've never had a colored doc before. Yeah. But you could tell even in this was when I was a resident and I was doing another rotation. It was a male patient. The few times I've taken care of men, it was a male patient. He said, I've never had a colored doc before. He didn't mean any harm by that. He didn't. He meant this is cool, And so, I think that I've been very blessed in that I've not had a lot of that. And if anything, I've had the Black older patients who are like, I have never had a Black doctor before.
Wow.
And I am this is awesome to have you, and it just reminds you of history and it reminds you that you're standing on the shoulders of many.
Absolutely. That is amazing. And you really do. And that's a part of why, I wanted to be able to highlight someone, in your shoes, because it is big. To me, it is big. This is a big thing. And and I love that, we do not hold ourselves back from stepping in shoes such as being a doctor when I know that I can do this, even though my background might not say that this is the road that I should be traveling. The people around me, they've got better experience and they might say that this isn't the road that I should be traveling. But you know what? I'm going to do this and I'm going to do it well.
That's it. Why not me? Let's
That's
go.
Right. Why not me? Yeah. That's it. And I have a fun question I want to ask you. Do you watch any of the doctor shows like Grey's Anatomy?
Very passionate about that answer. I started watching Grey's Anatomy back before Jordan was born. So that had to have been like 2005. I loved it. This is when I was applying to med school. I was like, oh my God, this is so good. This is so good. And then I got into med school. And about first semester, you sitting there studying 24 hours, 7 days a week, breastfeeding in between, and Grey's Anatomy comes on, turn it off.
Nope.
Had no interest at all. One, if it's accurate, I've lived it. I'm living it. I don't want to watch it when I get off. I love a good law show, though. Like so my friends who are lawyers who won't watch, I love Law and Order, but no, I'm not watching it. And then you see all the mistakes. You're like, that would never happen. So never. I'm not watching any medical shows.
I just wonder because I'm thinking I wonder if it's like me because I work in the office, but I love watching The Office because it's so funny. So I'm like, I wonder if doctors like watching doctors.
Most of us we love watching law shows. We like watching lawyers. Yeah.
Okay. Very, very. I just had to ask that question.
Well, I think that's a fun question. Yeah.
I have one last question that I like to ask all of my interviews, and because I love picking up inspirational quotes and things of that nature. So I'm wondering, especially, on the kind of demand in your life with being a doctor and all the other things, mother, mom.
Mm-hmm.
What is a quote or a statement or a scripture that you use on a regular basis that motivates you?
God. I read that question.
If you
I
have
don't
one.
know. So I have, so biblically, I think that just, I have several that I pull in, it's, taking care of patients, but by the grace of God, there go I. So just a humbling sort of thing. I always think of that when I see patients, and it's so easy to judge someone who's not taking care of themselves or da 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 da. But by the grace of God, there go I. My staff hears me say it. Like, y'all can laugh, but that could be us at any point in it, and it has been us. So, particularly as a young girls and STDs and bad decision making, and so, and then I think, I've got a lot of quotes hanging over my desk at work, and a lot of it has to do with just hustling. Just that I've just gotten a tattoo that says well, what does it say? It says discipline beats motivation, and I'm very big on that. Just you can, in this life, you cannot wait to want to do it or wait till you feel like you want to do it. The things that you value, back to the whole, what patients are asking about weight, libido, and depression. What did you do today to improve those things? And every day when you go to bed, you need to have named what I did to make sure that I was healthy. I went for a walk. What did I do for my mental health? I meditated. What did I do for my relationship? We spent time watching TV together, and if you can't name these things, most of the time those things are not being managed and they're not being valued. So I'm big on that. Most of the things that I recite to myself have to do with just discipline, consistency, commitment. Yeah.
I just want to say that this is why I like asking people this question, because discipline over motivation, that is speaking right to me, because even when it comes to working out or stuff like that, and I'm waiting for that moment, it's like, come on, dear, just come on, dear. You can do it. I'm waiting to feel motivated. But it's like discipline. It's okay. You don't have to feel motivated. Just get up and do it.
That's it. And that's what I tell people. I said, you have to go to work today. Did you wait to feel like you wanted to go to work? No. You're going to go to work. If you have children, are you ever not going to feed them? You're going to always feed them. You're going to always make sure there's a roof over their head. Your health needs to be the same priority,
So very true. So very true. Our self-care, caring for ourselves is absolutely important. And I have to tell you, this interview has been it's been amazing. It has really helped me answer some real questions. Just like when I asked them, having a doctor to I'm just asking, like, should we?
Yeah. Do I need one?
Because I need to make sure I'm good, right?
And me too. Like, my doctor is a friend of mine, and she's like, when are you coming? And I'm like, I'm coming. I swear I'm coming. So we're doing the same. We are the same.
So are doctors terrible patients?
Awful. We're awful, and we're awful parents as it relates. My son had walking pneumonia for like 2 weeks, and I'm like, you're good. And then I finally get to the doctor, and they're like, he's got pneumonia. I'm like, really? Terrible.
Like, Doc.
I was like, he's good. He's fine. Walk it off. He's fine. Yeah.
Walk it off.
Terrible patient.
Now that's a black mama coming out. Walk it off.
That is.
Come on and walk it off.
That's it. You're playing your little PlayStation. You must have been feeling fine. That's us. Terrible.
I love it. Well, Nikki, this is absolutely fun and enlightening, and I really appreciate your time. I really do. And I just want to speak to my community out there. Think back to your 10-year-old self. What was a desire that you had when you were 10 that you might be sitting on, and you've convinced yourself that it's not the road that you should be traveling now? Maybe you need to reconsider that. And maybe you need to just sit down, buckle down, discipline over motivation, and get it done. And I also want to encourage you guys. Self-care is important, and a part of self-care is joy and laughter. So if you have not done so already today, I want you to stop, take a moment, find a reason to laugh, and keep smiling. Until next time, and always stay blessed.